what's up? It's the Figure Hunter, and for review today is the full and comprehensive review for the Whoop 4.0. We're going to talk about the ins and outs and the pros and the cons, all of it in daily life use. We're going to get into the day-to-day use. We're going to get workout tracking, heart rate accuracy, training development perspective, and then we're going to talk about the sleep and wellness and recovery advice you get. I've already reviewed so many different singular aspects of this, and I'll put all the links down below, and as well as the timestamps because it might be a little long. But now for the full review and thoughts and advice on whether I like it, whether I think it's useful, whether I think it's worth the money for daily and life use. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing for more. I've got a lot of reviews on the way. The Aura, I've got the ultra-human cyborg glucose monitoring system coming. So please consider subscribing for more. I am partnering with the 5K Runner to sort of pair up and do this review. I'm basically doing some video content and also from the perspective of somebody doing CrossFit and high intensity interval training, and they're doing all of the basic running review and typing, a basic written review, and that will come in a little bit time because they have not yet gotten their device because there's been so many shipment issues. So what have we reviewed so far? What can you find in the description and the links below? Heart rate accuracy, 3 different ways, 3 different reviews. Full review for the accuracy, like the data analytical accuracy for the when worn on the wrist, when worn on the bicep, and when worn on the forearm. We're going to talk about the review results later, so that will be the end results will be in this video. We've talked about the training development aspects versus Garmin, Polar, Suunto, and Apple Watch apps. The review again down below. So how does it compare from looking at the training analytics you can get to develop your fitness compared to some of those other major players? And then lastly, I did a specific review of sleep, wellness, and recovery versus Garmin, Polar, and Apple Watch apps. So check those out if you want more of an in-depth, and we'll talk about the summary of those aspects in this video as well. Now, getting into a summary review, we're going to look at it hands-on in a second. 30% smaller than the 3.0. It's got a new removable band system, which is actually a huge improvement for swapping out for other bands or putting it in different pieces of clothing if you've seen on the website. The new heart rate sensor, which now has more diodes, a big improvement. It's not perfect. We'll talk about the results in a little bit. SpO2, blood ox tracking. It's got skin temperature tracking for other analytical aspects of your sleep. And now a new charging puck that does, it's waterproof and it charges magnetically, so it doesn't have to have connector ports. Here we're going to talk about 3 main things when it comes to the summary of the device and the main issues. First is battery, then we'll talk about band, and then we'll talk about connectivity. So in looking at the battery and testing it, across 4 different long, tracked cycles, I was getting anywhere from 4 to 4.5 days. Now the heart rate broadcast was left on most of the time, and so I get a little bit more. If I took the broadcast off, I get a little bit less. I actually got 3.5 days one time when I had the broadcast on all the time. So it will get, let's just say, 4 days of battery life. So that's, decent, not fantastic. Let's look at the hands-on of the band and the new contraption system, and then we'll come back to it. All right, so here you have it. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. This is the new puck. It doesn't charge by connections. It's just sort of a USB-C charge, which is fantastic. You can see the battery that's actually still in the puck when it's off, and you can see the battery of the Whoop when it's on. It'll tell you all those things, as well as you can double tap at any time and see the battery and some light diodes. So we're not going to worry about that. The system is the same as it was on the 4.0. It's just a lot shorter, about the same thickness. You have the new heart rate sensors, which actually fire 4 times more, and the new band is what I really wanted to show because I think the new band is pretty awesome. It is really comfortable. It does have some stretch to it, but not too much stretch, and it is just overall really comfortable. But the removable band is like the hottest part about it. It's just easy to slide on and off, and you can easily slide this into an arm sleeve or just slide it right back into the bicep band, which you will find out that you must have. So with that is the overall of the band and the device itself, and snaps in place and you're good to go. Let's look at the app really briefly. It is really sort of straightforward and simple. You have your basic overview of the day where you'll see your sleep and the training you did, your overall recovery and day strain up at the top. Then you have your strain score. So this is just how hard the overall day was on you, coupled with any activities you did. We'll look at that in more detail in a second. Your recovery score, we'll look at this in a detailed section. This is just your number for the day, that you're overall ready. You're either red, yellow, or green, ready to go. And this is your sleep. So amount of time you slept, you can click on these things and we'll do so later in the video. And then at the bottom, you have your overall week at a glance. So you can see simple, summaries for your recovery time per day and your strain time per day. You can see your overall strain score per day looking at a glance and seeing your average heart rate across different times. You can see your recovery per day. So strain, sorry if I said recovery, and then your recovery per day, and then your sleep details. This is just the amount of time you were in sleep. And then on the bottom, you can see your overall health coach. It's got a strain coach, which tells you what your goal would be for the amount of optimal strain based on your recovery from the last night. And it's just based on your last night's recovery, how much you should work. So the sleep coach, it's the sleep coach. You can see if I'm just looking for 7 hours, if I'm going to sleep till 9, that's just an old alarm. So it'll just tell you when you need to start preparing for bed, which is a neat little feature. And then you have your health ratings here, getting into all the details, which we'll look at later. You have the community, you can take a live shot, and that is basically the summation of the device itself. So there you have it. Pretty cool band system. I like it. It's relatively easy just to get on and off. Let's talk about the last major aspect in the general review is the connectivity. The connectivity has been incredibly problematic. Oftentimes not connecting, multiple times reconnecting, looking for the device, go find the device, shut the thing down, turn the Bluetooth off, restart the phone. And I use an iPhone 13, so I don't know what bearings that has on it, but the connectivity has been problematic, and if it's disconnected for very long, it takes a long time for the data to catch back up, for it to flow back into the app. And so, definitely some frustrations there. So looking at the design, the device, the feel, and just giving it an overall rating, the design is good. The battery is okay. It's a solid battery. The band is excellent. It's useful. It's functionally worthwhile versus the previous band. The feel of wearing it is great. It's very simple. It doesn't weigh anything, and so the feel is fantastic. The connectivity is terrible, as we just talked about, or it's just bad. Obviously, that could be updated in firmware updates later on. The app itself is simple but pretty good, and the price is hefty. So you can either pay $30 a month, which would equate to $360 a year, $24 a month, which you pay for upfront in 1 year's time, or 18 months, and it equates to $18 a month approximately. So in all the summary of the main things, the app and the device itself, I'd give it a B to a B minus. And maybe considering some of the frustrations I've had with connectivity, because we're just really trying to evaluate the value this brings and the functional usefulness in day-to-day life, I might give it a C. So with that, let's talk about the workout and tracking of your workouts and the training evaluation, the training inputs, the data that it gives you that's useful and purposeful for tracking and training your CrossFit, high intensity interval training, and your overall fitness development over time, because that is a functionally foundational thing that any of us should want to put on if we're tracking CrossFit. Let's look at the app mostly, but before we do, let's talk about the heart rate accuracy results that you'll see in the review below if you watch all the analytical, the data compiled. So when worn on the wrist, 60% accurate. That is way better because the original 3.0 was about 40% accurate and just didn't really follow the flow of the workout. But in simple terms, 60% is bad accuracy when worn on the wrist and doing a CrossFit workout. Do not wear it there. On the forearm, 78% accurate. So that's better. It's not as good as we would want it to be to give accurate data results when we're looking at the data to evaluate our fitness growth and how hard we're pushing ourselves. But it's okay. Always want to make sure you wear it on the outside. As we found in the testing, the outside of the forearm, not the inside of the forearm, is where you're going to get the best results. And then lastly, on the bicep, 95% accurate. That is a good, solid number. You can count on that to be accurate, worthwhile data for the most part. 95% accurate is good. So you gotta wear it on the bicep. That's the simple and overall focus. So let's look at the app and look at some of the workout and the training-ish type stuff you can get out of the data, and then come back together and talk about it. Okay, so here it is. Here's the overall strain and what you would see. So you can click on one of these and it'll flip. It'll tell you your general statistics, max heart rate for the day versus your average heart rate for the day, and the calories per day. So a little bit topical, like not a lot of detail there. And then if you have an activity, you click on the activity, it'll show you what the activity looked like. So this is a CrossFit session. There was a bunch of 4x10s, in the beginning for deadlifts, and then there was basically a 6-minute sprint coupled with a 1-to-1 rest time, so 6 minutes. So it didn't quite capture the heart rate perfectly. It got it on the first one, but not on the second two. It missed major portions. But if you look at that, the only thing you can see is your perceived exertion, but your stats, the only stats you get are those bottom little pieces: calories, average heart rate, max heart rate, and duration. So not a lot of details here. If I hold my finger on this, I don't get to see the heart rate. You have to go into the app for that. So it's sort of tragic that it's just sort of a simple glance with one single strain score. And then this would be, one area you could take actionable information is just to see how your strain is relating. You could see in general, my strain is a little bit low, compared to, having it consistently at a higher level or consistently in the 10 to 14 range. There's been too many days below that in the overall calories. But what you want to really look at is the coaching itself. You have the strain coach, which is just giving you a number. When you push on that, it's actually going to take you to try to start a workout, and it's giving you an optimal amount that you want to shoot for. But on the bottom is the weekly performance aspects. So you can see the range of optimal strain in a second. So you performed optimally, but it just has a bunch of dots, and it shows you the optimal balance between if you didn't get a good night's sleep, if you're in the red, how much your strain range should be. If you got a yellow, how much your strain range should be. And if you got a green. But this doesn't help me know how I need to train my fitness level higher. This just sort of says, did you work hard based on the previous night's sleep or previous night's heart rate variability? This to me is not actionable. And then you have sleep consistency. So you can see average aspects like this. Your strain was down 44% this week. My last week's average was 12.5, so my overall strain is less. So that's somewhat of a metric that you could say, well, I didn't push it as hard. I'm fitness, but it's not quantifiable. It's just sort of qualitative, where you just sort of get a sense, like, I think this is probably telling me I'm not working hard enough. Sleep 4%. So you can just see your ranges of things, but as far as actionable information, for are you pushing your fitness higher? Are you staying within the level of overall workload you should be staying in? It's not giving really good actionable information. It's just mostly telling you what you were this week average versus last week average, which doesn't tell you the whole story, and it doesn't tell you where you're starting necessarily. And so it's a little bit shallow in this whole area. So let's talk about it. So what do I think of the workout and training aspects of the Whoop 4.0? The heart rate on the bicep is good. Don't wear it anywhere else. Don't track your heart rate on some other part of your arm, in my opinion. I didn't track any of the body wear to see if it's accurate there. The strain score is good. Just an overall score for the level of exertion on a trackable, 0 to 21 scale. The details in the analytics from the workout, definitely too shallow, too narrow, too limited. There's not enough data that you can see. You just basically get, here's your heart rate graph. You can see more data a little bit on the app, on the website when you log into the website, so you can dive into like what point you have what heart rate. You can see some of their preset zones, but they don't even tell you what those zones are, at least at first glance. Not easy to see what they're setting your max heart rate and your zones to even be, which is where they're calculating some of their data, and you cannot control the zones. You can't track it that way either. So not enough data there. And if you check out the review that I made comparing some of the training aspects and the training information you can get from some of the other players, Garmin, Polar, Suunto, and Apple Watch apps, because the Apple Watch itself doesn't give good data. So all of those, I feel like provide what I feel like is way more actionable information, way more purposeful information for tracking your fitness development. So the strain score is one aspect. Here's how hard you worked. But it doesn't give enough information other than your average of strain scores. And if your strain score was somewhat optimal based on your recovery, or your strain score was somewhat better than last week, but it doesn't give you like, here's your status, here's your training load relative to what it should be to be pushing your fitness higher. It gives it in simple or smaller formats, but no summarized format that's purely focused on fitness development. And for that, I give the workout and the limited aspects of the data in the workout that you get on the app or even on the website, and then really the training development, fitness development side of it, I give it a C to a C minus compared to a lot of the other devices that are giving a lot more actionable information and more perceptive information for how you could be growing yourself harder. So lastly, we're going to look at the sleep, the wellness, and the recovery. We're going to look on the app. Let's do so. So here we can see the recovery score. This is like the main landing page you see when you wake up. I mean, obviously it's in the summary page. You can see the green there, but here you can say, okay, I am really recovered, 78%. I'm ready to go. And you can see here is the 4 metrics it's based on: heart rate variability, resting heart rate, sleep, and respiration rate. Now, if you have a green marker next to one of those, then you did well in that area. If you have a red marker, you did poorly. When I look at this, I failed 3 out of 4 tests. My resting heart rate was higher in what seems like a felt amount. My sleep was considerably lower at 5 hours and 49 minutes. My respiration rate was higher by a pretty high average, 16.1 versus 14.2. So if it's given me like I am in the green, I mean, I'm past 75%, which is not always easy to do, but I have these failed metrics. I don't feel like it's taking into account enough information to give me an adequate recovery score. And I've seen this and felt this in previous experiences. So that's what it's based on, but you can see very clearly if I failed 3 out of 4 tests, and it's given me a really positive green score, then it must be super overweighted to heart rate variability and not overrated to sleep, because here's what you see when you go on sleep. So you can see just simple summary information: disturbances, latency, and time in bed, not helpful. And you can click into the hours of sleep, 549. So this percentage number, this is just a number of how much you slept relative to how much you needed to sleep. So that's not your score. That's just a calculation of simple math. And then you go into the sleep, and it does show you, your heart rate graph over time. It gives you some of the, the stages, and the stages I've seen in videos and read about is got pretty good accuracy for the stages. And you can click on one of these, and it'll show you the red areas where you actually, accumulated time. But in all these things, it's a little bit simple, having seen so many watches that track your sleep stages. Now, this might be more accurate than those, but it doesn't give you any actionable information about the quality of your sleep and its ability to rejuvenate your body. It only is telling you should sleep more and what percentage of sleep relative to that recommended amount you got last night. So in the other health and wellness aspects, you have these 2 pieces here. So this is your week at a glance. So you can see I was really run down. Now think about this. I was, green, yellow, and then 2 harsh reds, and all my devices were saying harsh red. And then I have 1 night of sleep where I got 5 hours and 49 minutes, and it's saying I am good to go. Now, ask yourself, do you think I feel like I'm good to go? Nope, I do not. I did feel like I got quality of sleep felt better, and you can even see it. Like if you compare it to what my experience was on the Garmin, my sleep score was better. And my body battery, which is the heart rate variability that Garmin tracks, you can see here, it peaked at like 52. So I did get decent regeneration, but I'm at halfway point, which is really more appropriate because I got less sleep. My body battery got to 52, but only because of my sleep quality was good. And here you can see I got a good sleep score. And that's what I need to see a more holistic, actionable information versus here where it says, man, you did great in sleep, but you got 5 hours and 49 minutes of sleep, and you're coming from 2 really harsh failures. So some things I feel like are not as holistic and comprehensive enough in this, and then in the actionable information, it doesn't feel like it's accurate all the time when I wake up, even if the things behind the scenes are good, but you cannot see the data behind the scenes. You just get these simple summaries. You can't see what this data looks like. Then you have the coaching aspects. We already talked about the strain coach, and here's the sleep coach. Now, again, the sleep coach just sort of talks about your overall, how much time you need to sleep if you want to get by, because you set your little goal here. I want to get by, I want to peak, I want to perform, and it'll just tell you the number of hours you need to get, and you can set your alarm around that. The alarm works fine. And then here's your health monitor. If you noticed in all those things we just looked at, we didn't see any data for SpO2 or temperature, which is the new features that they offer. So here's where you see it, is just in this health monitor that you have to go into separately in a whole separate section. And I mean, it's microscopic when you go to the page and you go, okay, well, here's where I get my health monitor. And all it gives you is a number. You don't see your respiration rate across time, you just see your number, your average. You see your blood oxygen. You don't see the number of data points. You don't see your information. You just see the final result and what it would say is good or positive about it, but you don't see enough information of the details that it's tracking. And the oddball thing is that it's sort of hidden down here. These new features of SpO2 tracking and temperature tracking are, like 2 levels in, because you go here, 1 level in, you go here, and then you can see it. So not a lot of, it just doesn't put it front and center, and it definitely doesn't tell you any information. Then you go into your weekly assessment, which calculates, some of these wellness things, sleep recovery. You can see your sleep consistency. Again, that chart, that didn't help me take action a whole lot for me personally. So my sleep up 4% for this week, but I had 2 red failures. One night I got 4 hours and something of sleep. My sleep performance is up. Now what that means is it just my percentage of what I should get versus what I didn't get. It's not coming together super well for me in what I'm experiencing after having 2 red failures and knowing I got 4 hours of sleep one night and I got 5 hours and 45 minutes of another night. But here's what it's based on. It's saying, okay, well, here's what the data is, so here's what you're going to get. We can see the sleep consistency, the time in bed, recommended time in bed, so I can see where I fit in the range and the variability of all those details. So it has data there. A lot of it is not actionable enough or not clear enough. You can't dig into it enough, but you have the data, but I don't know that it's telling me anything totally worthwhile for actually approaching the next hard workout. Okay, so sleep, wellness, and recovery. Again, might want to check out the review compared to other players on the industry right now, Garmin, Polar, and Apple Watch apps that are providing sleep, wellness, and recovery information, and one of them in particular doing almost exactly what you would get in experience-wise versus the Whoop, but you still have a watch and you have other functions. So the sleep itself is excellent when it comes to the analytical aspects of the sleep stages. I've read a bunch of studies and reviews and watched a bunch of videos. So yes, it is giving you as accurate as you can get when wearing a device and tracking your stages of sleep for the most part and what's mostly out there. But it is missing a sleep score, an actionable value when it comes to the sleep side of things. All the big percentage that it shows is just your percentage of sleep versus the time you should have slept in order to get more complete rest. So it's poor and absent in the fact that it doesn't give you real good action information for the sleep itself, not just percentage of time you should have slept, whether you did more than or less than your average. So we saw in that example, it didn't flow through to the main aspect, which is recovery. Recovery is what they're saying is your absolute, ready to go-ness on hard workouts. Your ready to go-ness in life and your need for more rest and those types of things. But we can see, as we see that the recovery is based on heart rate variability, resting heart rate, respiration rate, and the hours of sleep versus it's just based on your averages, your hours of sleep, and it all overweights to the heart rate variability scores. We saw in that last score, it basically, I had failed all the 3 categories, gotten 5 hours and 24 or 5 hours and 45 minutes of sleep, but it had given me great recovery scores. So it must be just the heart rate variability. And then there's times, and I didn't show this in the video, there's times where I'd get a terrible night's sleep, but if I took a nap during the day, it still shows me as not ready for a hard workout. Whereas systems like Garmin that's tracking your heart rate variability at all times throughout the day, when you take a nap, your heart rate variability gets better, goes up, and your recovery goes up. I've even had the Garmin watch tell me when I woke up, your recovery time, hard workout to hard work, has gotten worse. It's gotten bigger. And then when I took a nap, it says you've improved your recovery time by having more rest. And that's useful information when it comes to the whole day, not just a snapshot of the night. And this is your number. And you have to figure out whether your number is a little bit better than that based on the day itself. So not enough actionable information there. So in this area, sleep, wellness, and recovery, especially when compared to some of the other devices out there, I just give it a C. Just sort of an average score. It's got so much potential, and it feels like it has so much potential, but it doesn't give you enough, and it doesn't combine enough details to give you as quality of information as you could get elsewhere. And so it's just a C rating again in this area. So here we have it. What do I think in full and final summary when wearing the Whoop 4.0, as also it compares to some of the experiences I've already been testing that you could also get as well. Overall, the design is simple and it's good in its simplicity. It applies to the app as well. It's simple and it's good in its simplicity. The connectivity is actually an issue, and I've heard that the 3.0 had similar or reoccurring or long-lasting connectivity problems like this. So I'm worried and wondering if it's going to get better that much, but the connectivity makes the design sort of skew downwards. The workouts and the workout tracking and how it relates to your, how you can see data, I give it a C. There's just not enough information. The training development and your overall actionable direction to help you to push your fitness higher, I'd give it a C to a C minus. It's just not there, especially when compared to others. And the sleep and recovery and wellness aspects, I would give it a C there as well. It is good that it's focused on heart rate variability. Others are catching on to that more so and more so, but others have already been doing it for a while. But when I look at all of these things, it's just, it doesn't provide enough to justify the cost. It doesn't, to me, provide enough, especially because you're not getting all of the watch aspects. You're not getting all the smartwatch aspects. You're not getting all the connection to, like simple things like GPS. If you want to track your run, if you're a runner, to be able to see what your cadence and your pace and your stride and all those things that I don't necessarily track. You can't track, any of the things that you might get in other devices like weather or sunrise, sunsets, and maybe that's not point. Maybe that's just the simplicity. It's only for those that want simple information. But that's the rub. It's good at the workout exertion score, giving you a score for the strain of that workout, but it doesn't help your fitness development in a bigger way, in my opinion. It's good for the heart rate variability recovery, but it doesn't help you understand how it all ties together, or what you experience throughout the day ties into what your new, recovery might be midway through it. So all in all, it's just not giving enough. It really is for people that hate watches. Honestly, as you think about the things it's providing, it comes down to, that's the feeling I continue to get, is it's just not giving me enough to want to pay that much. I would probably, say if you think of a 2-year cycle of a typical, high-tech device, 2 years time, you're looking at like $400 on the low end. You're looking at, $480 on the mid end, and you're looking at a much bigger number of $720 on the high end. And that is it's just too simple. And so for that, we thank you. No, for that is the reason I'm sending it back. That's the reason I'm going to be forced, unfortunately, to return the device. And side note, you cannot return your Whoop Pro membership. It's just a one-time purchase. I can still get one piece of clothing or one piece of whatever. So, they'll be on eBay, but it's just not worth it. So it's hard for me to say this because I love what they're doing in some ways, but in real life, after sitting with it for some time and seeing it alongside other things, it's just not giving enough. So with that is the full and final review for the Whoop 4.0. Stay tuned for the 5K Runners written review. It's the Fit Gear Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.